So very good morning, students. Please, I welcome you all for the class, Basic Electrical Engineering. Uh, I'll project my screen. Please say whether your audio, what you receive, is okay, and you're able to see the screen which I am sharing.
Yes, sir, we can see.
You're able
Yes,
to
sir.
see.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Without wasting much time, we are starting. So others will join soon. So we'll start the class. So we have uh, we stopped with resistance yesterday. So resistance is going to be a component that is going to restrict the amount of flow of current in a particular circuit. I told you example in a circuit, if you want to restrict or stop the flow of current, you put a resistor in that circuit, and this is the representation of resistor. So resistor will be represented like this, and the resistance value is given as R, and the current flowing to resistor is I. You always remember the current entering point is always positive, and the current leaving point is always negative. This is the convention we follow in a resistor. So if you assume the current is entering this way, this point will become positive, this point will become negative. So please, this convention, please do not change it, because all over the world, in all standard textbooks, we are following only this convention. Remember this: in a resistor, the current entering node is always positive, leaving node is always negative. So don't think that current will enter only by this way. Current can enter this way also. So don't think left side is plus, right side is minus. Don't decide the polarity based on your direction. Decide based on the direction of flow of current only. Okay, and we have seen Ohm's law yesterday. So in Ohm's law will work for linear circuits. I told the example of linear circuit. In a linear circuit, output is proportional to input. So the linearity relation will be there, and Ohm's law will work only at constant parameters, constant temperature, constant pressure. Okay, so those are the restrictions of Ohm's law. So you cannot apply Ohm's law anywhere as you like for any devices. So Ohm's law is applicable only for linear devices. In linear devices, what do you mean by linear device? The output of the device is proportional to input. Okay, output is proportional to input for a linear device. I gave an example on the day. So if in a circuit I am giving 2 volt, I am getting current as 4 amperes. I am getting three. I am giving 3 volt. I am getting current as 6 amperes. I am giving 4 volt. I am getting current as 8 amperes. So you see that all the inputs and output what I get, the ratio is maintained to be 2. So this is a linear circuit. If the ratio is not maintained, it's going to be a non-linear circuit. Simple example, what you do in your day-to-day life, you operate a TV with a remote, right? So if you press the volume button once, the volume is increasing by 1 point. If you press the volume button twice, the volume is increasing by 2 point. If your remote is not working well or your TV has some issues, if you press the volume button once, the volume may increase abruptly. So in that case, the process becomes non-linear. So I think this example should clarify what is meant by linear and non-linear. So linear means it should increase proportionately or it should decrease proportionately. If it's not doing so, it is going to be a non-linear circuit. Okay. So Ohm's law is applicable for linear circuits under constant pressure or temperature or any other parameter. Okay. So V is proportional to I. So to remove this proportionality constant, we introduce R. So this proportionality constant is going to be R. Okay, and the unit of R is ohms. And higher the value of R, lower is going to be the value of current. Okay, and if, the power across a resistor, resistor is an element which is going to dissipate power. Not store. Resistor can dissipate power in the form of heat, and that heat will be transferred into the environment. Okay, if you touch the resistor after a current is flowing, the resistor will be very hot because it will dissipate some power in the form of heat. So that power dissipation formula is given by P is equal to V into I. The one formula is to multiply the voltage resistor and current flowing to resistor, you will get the power. So if you want to write purely in terms of V, substitute I is equal to V by R from Ohm's law, you get power is equal to V squared by R. This formula relates power only in terms of V and R. If I want to write only in terms of I and R, in this formula, instead of I, you should substitute for V. Substitute for V is equal to IR from Ohm's law. So IR into I, so power will be equal to I square R. So this formula relates power current and resistance. So we have three formulas for power. So one formula is voltage current, second formula is voltage resistance, third formula is current and resistance. Any clarifications in the at this point? Any clarifications are there for you?
No, sir.
No, right? If anything, please note it down. At the last 5 minutes, we'll surely discuss all your clarifications. Okay. The resistance usually we connect it in series. So the dual of resistance is going to be conductance. It is denoted by G, and the value is given by 1 by R. So whenever you go for parallel circuits having more number of parallel components, we'll be finding G, because finding G is simple. Okay, so G is called as conductance, and conductance is reciprocal of resistance 1 by R. So you know the unit of resistance is ohms, right? The unit of conductance is you write ohm in reverse order, it is called as MHO, or some books call it as ohm inverse, some books call it as Siemens. Okay, so you have 3 units for conductance. You can use it as comfortable for you. All the 3 units are denoting the same variable conductance. Okay, so how to rewrite Ohm's law in terms of conductance? You know V is equal to IR. I need to bring 1 by R somehow. So bring this R to the other side. So I is equal to V by R, or I is equal to VG. So I is equal to VG is the modified form of Ohm's law in terms of G. Okay. V is equal to IR is the actual Ohm's law in terms of R resistance. Okay. I'm not able to write. Okay. So this is the modified form of Ohm's law in terms of conductance. I is equal to VG. And you see, always resistance depends on temperature. So resistance increases with temperature mostly. There are some devices where resistance will decrease with temperature, but majority of the resistance what you take, they will increase with temperature. So for example, I'll say if you, in your house, if you measure, if you keep a resistance, the value will be 1 kilo ohm. If you keep the same resistance in Jammu Kashmir, where the temperature is always less, it will be 900 ohms. So difference of 100 ohms is there because of temperature. So at room temperature, resistance is constant. So when the temperature increases or drops from the room temperature, the resistance will mostly increase or decrease. Very rarely it happens in the reverse way. When the temperature is going to increase, very rarely resistance will decrease. That happens in a very rare case, but mostly resistance is increasing with your temperature. Okay, they are all temperature dependent. That's why we use all these Ohm's law, conductance, everything. We consider the environment to be room temperature, so that we need not worry about the botheration of temperature variation of resistance. So in all our circuits, we'll assume we do everything in the room temperature. So resistance is assumed to be a constant parameter, but actually resistance depends on temperature. Please understand that. So the first component what we've studied is resistance, and the dual of resistance is going to be conductance. Dual means what comes for resistance in series, it will be conductance in parallel. Okay. Now next element is capacitance. So you should have studied about capacitance. Whenever you have two parallel plates separated by some distance, it creates a capacitive effect. What is a capacitive effect? I'll explain it very simple. So I'm going to apply some voltage across the two plates. The two plates are separated by distance d, and they are hanging in air. The distance is uniform throughout, and the plates have an area of capital A. Okay. So when I apply a DC voltage to this capacitor, what happens? This upper plate will have positive charge load because it is close to the positive polarity of the battery. And the lower plate will have all the negative, it will be negatively charged, the lower plate. And you know, because of this positive charge on the upper and negative charge on the lower plate, there exists electric field which flows in this direction. So electric lines of force will start from the upper plate and they will be flowing towards the lower plate. So in this case, in this situation, what I'm going to set up, I'm going to set up an electric field. So an electric field is set up at this juncture. So capacitance gives rise to electric field. The capacitive effect is production of electric field. If you reverse the polarity, minus if you give here, plus if you give here, this lower plate is positively charged, the upper plate is negatively charged. So electric lines of force will flow in this direction. Okay. And this space between the plates can be air or it can be any other dielectric medium. Also, it is not going to be a problem. Ultimately, you have to understand capacitive effect means you are going to generate electric field. Is this clear? Any doubts in capacitance? Anybody has some queries in capacitance? How a capacitor works? Anybody has a query?
Sir, epsilon is used for showing medium also.
Yes, epsilon is dependent on the medium. So the formula for C is equal to epsilon A by D. I told you A is the area of the plate and D is the distance between the plates, and epsilon is called as permittivity of the medium. So here, if we are going to use air medium, epsilon will be equal to epsilon naught into epsilon r. For air medium, epsilon r will be equal to 1. And epsilon naught is a constant value. You know it is 8.854 into 10 power minus 12. Okay. And A is the area and D is the separation between the plates. And unit for capacitance is farad. It is also name of the scientist. So unit for capacitance is farad. Okay. And if see, if I have explained you with DC. If you are going to give AC, if you are going to place an AC voltage source here, this positive and negative will be for one half cycle, and for other half cycle, this will become positive, this will become negative. So the electric field direction will be changing periodically. First half, for the positive half cycle, electric field will be flowing this way. For negative half cycle, electric field direction will be like this. So it keeps on changing. Okay. So the
Sir,
effect,
I doubt, sir.
yes,
Sir, it is normally like said that capacitor resists voltage, sir. Why is it, sir? It resists change in voltage, sir. Why is it, sir? Like that.
see, the capacitance and inductors come under a category of components called as lumped. Okay, lumped elements. Lumped means they cannot accept sudden change in voltage. The resistance can accept sudden change in voltage because it is a linear element. Okay, but capacitance and inductors are non-linear elements. The parameters don't vary in a linear way. And I'll say a simple example. I think this should make you understand. You have a fan in your house and you are having a regulator to control the speed of the fan. Correct? So whenever you are whenever you're turning on the regulator, the fan is getting more revolutions, or when you lower it down, the fan is getting lower revolutions instantaneously, correct? That is because the regulator has a resistor inside that. So resistor can instantaneously accept sudden change in current or voltage. But the same fan, if you take, if the fan is completely in rest, so if you turn on the switch, will the fan come to its full speed immediately? Will the fan rotate at full speed immediately after turning on the switch? Will it
No,
rotate
sir.
at full speed immediately or not? It will not rotate at full speed because
No, sir.
you have coils and capacitance inside your fan. So they cannot accept sudden change in voltage. Initially, till the time when you switch on, the fan is off. It is suddenly 230 volt to supply to the fan. So it cannot suddenly react to that change. So it will slowly react to the change and ensure that the process is going to be very, very smooth. That is why they say that capacitance and inductance, they will resist sudden change in voltage or current. Is my
Sir,
answer clear to you?
but what is the principle behind that, sir? Like, what actually happens in capacitor, sir, when voltage changes? Why does
See
it
here,
resist? No, sir, in solenoids means I can understand due to magnetic flux it resists current, sir. But in capacitance, what happens? Only I don't know.
same. You call it as electric flux. Same thing here. There, magnetic flux. Here you have electric flux. So you see here, you have electric flux. You have upper plate is positively charged, lower plate is negatively charged, right? So whatever current is going to flow, it is going to do the same thing. See the polarity, it is going to oppose the voltage which is going to produce the current.
Okay, sir.
It is going to oppose it.
So it produces like an opposing electric field against the current, sir. Is it like that?
Yes, against the input electric voltage, it opposes an opposing, it produces an opposing EMF sort of thing, as you say in Faraday's law, right? Same thing. It produces an opposing electric field when an input voltage is applied to the capacitor.
Okay, sir. Understood, sir. Thank you, sir.
And C, yeah, thank you. And the formula for C is another formula for C is Q is equal to Q by V. So how much voltage you give and how much charge is produced across the plates. So capacitance is going to be Q by V. And unit for Q, you know it is coulomb. Unit for voltage, you know it is volt. So another unit for capacitance is coulomb by volt. It is also equivalent to farad. So coulomb per volt, or it is also equivalent to farad. Okay. And these two formulas you have to remember. Current through a capacitor. So current through a capacitor is I is equal to C into dV by dt. So remember these formulas. We need not go in depth on how these formulas are obtained. So you are going to use it. So remember the formulas for through a capacitor. I is equal to C into dV by dt, because change current is dependent on the change in voltage. Okay, when you give a DC current, DC voltage to a capacitor, in DC the voltage is constant. What is differentiation of constant? What is differentiation of constant?
Zero.
So
Zero.
what will be the current? What will be the current
Zero,
flow
sir.
through capacitor?
Zero,
Zero,
sir.
Be
sir.
zero. It
Zero,
will
sir.
be zero. It will be zero. Clear? Under DC, the current flow through the capacitor is zero. So, or I can say a capacitor blocks DC. Is that statement clear with everyone? So, when I am going to apply a DC voltage, the current flow through the capacitor is zero. So, I can say the capacitor is going to block DC. It is going to allow only AC. So in circuits where you want to completely block all the DC voltage, if you put a capacitor, that will act like a filter. So it will filter out all the DC voltage. It will allow only the AC voltage to pass through your circuit. Okay. And voltage across capacitor, just rearrange this equation. So bring the C here. So I by C is equal to dV by dt, or dV is equal to I by C into t, or voltage 1 by C integral I of t dt. So this again is the voltage across capacitor formula. So voltage is derived from the current formula. So current is the actual formula from which we are going to derive the voltage across the capacitor. Is that clear? Remember these two formulas, we'll be using them invariably in problems. Okay. And energy stored in a capacitance, so it is half PV square. Again, I say this derivation and other things are not required. Remember, this energy stored is half PV square. And resistance will not store energy. Only capacitance and inductance will store and transfer energy. Okay, that's why we say energy stored in a capacitance. But for resistance, we say energy dissipated in a capacitance, or power dissipated in a resistance. Okay, for resistance, we use the term dissipation. For capacitance and inductance, we will use the term energy storage, because L and C are energy storage devices. Okay, please understand that very, very clearly. And capacitance has, just like how resistance opposes the flow of current, and magnitude of R will say how much current is flowing in a circuit, right? So same way, capacitance also have a term called as reactance. So reactance is just like how it behaves with AC voltage. So the reactance of capacitance is given by Xc equal to 1 by omega C. Omega is the angular frequency, and I can replace omega by 2 pi f. So Xc is 1 by 2 pi fc. So whenever you're dealing with AC circuits, if a capacitance is given and frequency is given, I can say how much reactance the capacitance is going to offer to that particular sinusoidal input. So it is 1 by 2 pi fc. As you see, Xc is proportional to 1 by f. It is inversely proportional. See, 2 pi is a constant. C value is a constant. The Xc is proportional to, or I can say Xc is inversely proportional to f. So as the frequency is going to increase, the reactance is going to decrease. So if you plot the graph, this is the graph you will get for Xc versus f. So as the frequency is going to increase, the reactance will decrease. At DC, you see, it offers the maximum reactance. What is the reactance of capacitor at DC? What is Xc value at DC? Can anybody say?
Maximum.
Infinity, sir.
Infinite, sir.
Infinity, sir.
What is
Infinity, sir.
infinite? What is the frequency of DC?
Zero, sir.
Zero,
I
sir.
told in the very first
Zero.
class, DC is constant. Yes, the frequency is going to be zero. So put f is equal to zero here. What will you get the value of Xc?
Infinity.
Infinity. What does infinity mean? What does infinity mean? What does infinity mean? It is offering maximum resistance. So it is equivalent to what? It is equivalent to an open circuit. The capacitance at DC is equivalent to an open circuit. Okay, remember that clearly. And when you apply very high frequency, what will happen? What happens when f tends to infinity? What happens when f tends to infinity? Xc will become
Zero, sir.
Zero.
anything by infinity is
Zero.
Zero,
so
sir.
capacitor will act when is the resistance or reactance 0? What the condition you call that? It is short circuit, correct? So for DC signal, the capacitance offers infinite reactance or it is open. For high frequency AC signal, capacitance offers zero reactance. It is going to behave like a short circuit. Okay. See, you need not remember everything. Just remember the formula for XC. From XC, you can make all the conclusions, whatever is required. Okay. And one important the feature of a capacitor is in capacitance, current leads the voltage by 90 degrees. Very, very important observation in a capacitor. Current leads the voltage by 90 degrees. I'll say with a simple example. This is the formula for current through in the capacitor, right? So I is equal to C into dV by dt. Assume for this V, I'm going to give a sine signal. Assume I'm going to give sine t for V. So assume V is equal to sine t. What is dV by dt?
Cos t, sir.
Cos t. So it is cos t into C. So I will be C into cos t. And voltage is sine t. So where will sine function start? Sine 0 means sine wave is like this, right? So sine wave is like this. Where will your cos waveform start? So cos waveform will be somewhere like this. So which is coming first? Voltage. This one is voltage. This one is current. Which is coming first? Current or voltage?
Current.
This is current. And this is voltage. If I draw the diagram, because voltage is sine wave, current is cos wave. So current wave comes first. So I can say in capacitor, current is leading your voltage. Current is coming first, then only voltage is coming. Okay. So please understand the statement clearly. In capacitor, current leads the voltage by 90 degrees. If I take sine for voltage, I get cos for current. What is the phase difference between sine and cos? So if you add 90 degrees to sine, I will get cos. If I add 90 to cos, I'll get sine. So the phase angle between sine and cos is going to be 90 degrees. So in a capacitor, current leads the voltage by 90 degrees. So to see, if you cannot remember this, I can say an easy way to remember. Remember this equation and substitute here sine theta. And whatever you get I, just draw and see which waveform is coming first. That's going to be leading and lagging. So in capacitor, current leads, or I will say voltage lags the current. Both are same representation, but remember only one thing, it will confuse. So remember, current leads voltage by 90 degrees. One shortcut, capacitor also C, current also C. So in capacitor, current will lead. That's all. So for inductor, naturally, what is remaining? Voltage will lead. So that way you can remember it very easily. C for C. Remember, in a capacitor, current is going to lead. And the angle is going to be always 90 degrees. Because sine and cos, the phase angle is going to be 90 degrees. Is the basics of capacitance clear? Any doubts in capacitor? Yeah, I'm spending much time here because in all the circuits we'll be using these RLC components as and like we want. So that time we should not be struggling while applying the concepts, right? So that's why I'm giving a detailed understanding of the components. Is capacitance okay? Shall we go to inductor?
Yes, sir.
So inductance, it is represented by this rotation. It is a coil, and the inductance value is given by L. Same way, when current flows through an inductor, voltage is developed in this way. Always current entering node is plus, leaving node is minus. See, I am following the rotation throughout the same thing. Okay, so follow it same way. An inductance, when current flows through a coil, you have magnetic field created, and that magnetic field is going to oppose the source of current. So same way, all the Faraday's laws is obeyed everywhere in inductor and capacitance. Same thing. Okay, in capacitance, we talk about electric field. In inductance, we talk about magnetic field. Okay, H. H is the magnetic field. Okay, we talk about magnetic field, H. So the magnet, if the current flows through this coil, the magnetic field is set up. This end will act like a north pole. This end will act like a south pole. If current is going to flow this direction, it will reverse. This end will be north pole. This end is going to be south pole. And if you are going to apply AC current for positive half cycle, this will be pole, south pole. For negative half cycle, this will be north pole and south pole. Okay, there we talk about charge. Here we'll talk about flux, magnetic flux. And voltage across inductor is given by V is equal to L into di by dt. This is the equation for voltage. Again, the derivation is yes.
Can you explain the directions again, sir?
See, always when current is going to flow through any component, the current entering node is positive and leaving node is negative. That terminology is followed for L, C, R, any component, whatever you're going to consider inside a circuit. So if current is going to flow through a coil, a magnetic field is set up across the coil. You know, in a magnet, you will have north pole and south pole. So when current is going to flow this way, the positive side of voltage will be correlated to north pole and negative side will be correlated to south pole. This is for DC because in DC, the current is same. It is not going to change. When you are going to apply AC current, for positive half cycle current will flow in this direction. For negative half cycle current will flow in the opposite direction. So automatically you will have north pole and south formation inside coil. When you switch off the current, the magnetic field is also off. So it is not a permanent magnet, it is a temporary magnet. And the magnetic field will strongly depend on what? The current flow through your coil. Is that clear?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So voltage across inductor formula is given. Same way rearranged, you can find the current through an inductor. I is equal to 1 by L integral V of t dt. Remember only this formula, you can get this formula. So same way in inductor, the reverse. Voltage leads current by 90 degrees. You apply I is equal to sin t, you get V is cos t. So if you draw sin t and cos t will come. So is lead current in an inductor. That's why I said, remember for capacitor alone, C for C. In capacitor, current is going to lead. So in inductor, naturally, what is going to lead? The voltage is going to lead the current by 90 degrees. Okay, so L, if you understand one component thoroughly, other component will be exactly opposite. You see, compare capacitor here, and the formula for I will have differentiation. But here you see, in inductor, the formula for I will have integration, opposite. In capacitance, you see the formula for V will have integration. In inductor, the formula for V will have differentiation. Completely opposite components. They complement each other very well, inductor and capacitor. Okay. And energy stored, inductor half Li square. There, half CV square. In capacitor, voltage is important because electric field is set up. In inductor, current is important because magnetic field is set up. So half Li square. So how you can replace by I can replace L by C. They are called as duals. So this dual is a very good name. So dual means the properties are complementary, or you can get the properties of one from another. Okay, it is called as duals. Voltage and current are duals. Inductor and capacitor are duals. Duals means they exhibit identical properties. Is it clear till now? The concept of duality, inductor, capacitor basics. Is it clear? Now we are going to talk about impedance. So this impedance comes in AC circuit. Okay. So this impedance comes in AC circuit. So impedance denoted by Z, and Z is given by R plus JX. General form of impedance is R plus JX. So impedance is a complex quantity. Any complex number will have real term and imaginary term, right? So the real term is going to be R. Real term is called as resistance, and the imaginary term is called as reactance. So resistance is contributed by resistor. The reactance is contributed by L or C. Depends on the circuit. If your circuit has L, you will put XL here. If your circuit has C, you will put XC here. So you remember Z equal to R plus JX is a general formula, and R is going to be the resistance and X is going to be the reactance. So if the sign of if I'm going to use L means the imaginary term will be positive. If I'm going to use capacitance means the imaginary term is going to be negative. Is that clear? That one is very, very important. You have to understand the sign convention. If I'm going to write R, if I'm going to use inductor, I'll write R plus JXL. If I'm going to use a capacitor, I'll be writing R minus JXC because the voltage and current are completely out of the phase, right? In inductor, voltage is leading. In capacitor, current is leading. Okay, so for that only we are using the sign convention plus. So plus means I'm going to plus means I'm going to use it for inductor, and for minus I'm going to use it for a capacitor. And you know XC is 1 by omega C for inductor, and XL is omega L for your capacitor. So this phase angle, this plus and minus is coming for the phase angle. Okay, current leading the voltage and voltage leading the current. So in
Sir,
unit of
doubt, sir.
impedance, yes,
Sir, you are saying that Z is equal to R plus JX, no, sir?
yes,
And but we have studied another formula called like impedance Z is equal to root of R square plus XL minus XC the whole square.
no. I have not gone into LC circuit. I am just saying the basic what is an impedance. So don't confuse. We'll study about that again. This is not circuit specific. This is general formula for impedance in any circuit. Is given by R plus JX. Okay. If you are going
Okay,
to
sir.
have an inductor in your circuit, you write it as R plus JXL. If you are going to have capacitance, you write it as R minus JXC. For now, you
Sir,
understand how
and J is what, sir?
J is I. You complex number, you studied I, right?
Oh, okay, sir. Okay,
Complex.
sir.
Here we use J. I and J are the having the same notation. Then complex numbers you would have used A plus IB, but here you use the J. J is going to be the complex number. J is equal to square root of minus 1. Same thing. Same. J has same
Okay, sir.
properties as, and as how we say V and I are dual, L and C are dual. You also have a dual for impedance. It is called as admittance. The admittance is the dual for impedance, and admittance is given denoted by Y. The impedance denoted by Z, admittance given by Y. The same way how we write impedance as Z equal to R plus JX, same way we can write admittance Y is equal to G plus JB. And Y is your admittance, G is your conductance, and B is called as acceptance. Okay, so they are all related in an inverse way. You know, G is conductance. You know, G is given by 1 by R. We have studied conductance just now. So resistance in series, we relate that with conductance in parallel. Okay. And susceptance is the inverse of reactance. So this B is going to be equal to 1 by X. P is the inverse of reactance. And same way there, if it is L, we assumed the sign is positive, and for C, we assume the sign is negative, right? Here it is reverse. If it is positive means it is going to be capacitance. If it is negative means it's going to be inductance. And the B value also you see, it will be reciprocal. Capacitance usually it is 1 by omega C, correct? See the formula 1 by omega C. But here you see it is omega C, reciprocal of that. And the inductor it is omega L, right? But here you see reciprocal 1 by omega L. Is it clear? Just understand that you have two more quantities called impedance and admittance, which are mostly used in AC circuits. So whenever we study about AC circuits where frequency is involved, we'll definitely use all these components of impedance and any doubt in impedance and admittance. Unit of admittance is going to be ohm inverse. You write this ohm in an inverted way, you call it as ohm inverse. And unit of impedance is going to be ohm, as I said. Any doubt in Z and Y, impedance and admittance? And you know how to find magnitude of a complex number, right? So this is a complex number. So how will you find magnitude for the Z? How will you find modulus of Z?
R square plus X square the whole root.
Yes, square root of R square plus X square. And any complex number, you will have the angle also. The angle is given by tan inverse of imaginary term by real term. So here you have tan inverse of X by R. Okay. So for any complex number, you will find magnitude and angle. Okay. So Z and Y will have magnitude as well as the phase angle theta. And Y also the magnitude is square root of G square plus B square. And the angle is given by tan inverse of D by 3. Okay. And impedance is mostly used when you have more number of series components. Okay. That case you use impedance, but admittance is used when you have more number of parallel components. Okay. In that circuit, if you use, it will be easy for you to analyze the circuit. So is it fine? Capacitor, inductor, and the basics. Now a small example. A small small example on how to find the impedance and admittance, and then we'll proceed with our thing. So see the problem. A circuit has R is equal to 10 ohm and L is equal to 10 millihenry at 1, and the circuit operates at 1 kilohertz. Find the impedance of the circuit. So you know it is R and L are connected in series. So Z will be equal to R plus JX. And you use plus here because I'm going to use an inductor. Okay. And for inductor, you know the value of X is going to be omega L. And omega is going to be 2 pi F. So 10. So R is 10. 10 plus J into 2 pi F into L. L is 10 millihenry. So 10 into 10 power minus 3. Frequency is given as 1 kilohertz. So 10 plus J into 2 pi into 10 power 3 to 10 into 10 power minus 10 power 3 and 10 power minus 3 will get cancelled. So you get the answer as Z equal to J plus Z equal to 10 plus J 6.62.83 ohms. How will you find the magnitude? Square root of 10 square plus 62.83 square. So you get 63.62 ohms. An angle, tan inverse imaginary term by real term. And whatever angle you get, you write it here. Same way you write it here. So this is going to be the representation of Z in magnitude angle format. This is the representation of Z in complex format. You call this one as polar format. Polar means I'll be using magnitude and angle for representing the impedance. I think this form is familiar to you, but this form is not familiar. So remember that you can represent impedance in polar format also by using this conversion. So once you have this complex number, find the magnitude and angle. So write the magnitude followed by angle. This notation clear for everyone? So we'll be using this in our circuit. We'll not be considering this as this one. We'll be using only this format because this format is very easy to simplify.
Sir. Sir, you struck.
Yes, sorry, there was a network issue. So is this
Sir,
magnitude angle notation?
sir,
Anybody has
what is the
having
angle
doubts?
for that
Yes,
sum, sir? What is the angle for that sum, sir?
I didn't have the calci. You can try it with your calci. Just a second,
Okay,
I think I
yes, sir.
have calci. So it is tan inverse 62.83 divided by 10. So the angle is 80.9 or 81 degrees. The angle is 81 degrees. Okay. See, when you use a resistor, the angle will be 0. But because you're using an inductor, there will be a phase angle of the angle what I told you. It's 80.9 or 81. So the angle is 81 degrees. Okay, it is 81 degrees. And you will write 81 degrees here. Is this notation okay? You have to find Z from the components given to you. And if without frequency, you cannot find. So if frequency is not given, I cannot find Z. Because inductor, the reactance depends on frequency. If the frequency is not given, I cannot find Z. Same way, next problem you see, I'm going to use R and C. So this material is already shared to you. So just don't write whatever I'm saying now. You note down all the shortcuts, what I say, how to remember like that. Note down all those things. Anyhow, this is there with you. So you can download and read later also. Just note down the important concepts which I said during the class. Okay. Same way now you see R and C. So R is 10 ohm, C is 1 microfarad at 1 kilohertz. Find the impedance. So capacitance, I have to use minus sign. That is the notation we followed. So R minus JX. So R minus J into what is X for capacitor? 1 by omega C. Same way substitute for omega 2 pi F. You get the answer as Z equal to 10 minus J 159.154 ohms. Same way, find the magnitude and angle. So magnitude is 159.46. Angle, just a second. For the angle, you get minus 86.4. Minus 86.4 is the angle. Okay, that angle you represent here. And whenever capacitance is given, you have to put a minus sign automatically. If you put plus here, the entire thing goes wrong. The entire thing is wrong. Okay, and same way for inductor, if you put a mistake minus sign here, the entire thing is wrong. So please read the question very, very carefully, whether you are going to have L or C, and accordingly you do it. Okay, and if reverse thing, if Z is given to you, you can easily say what the components of Z are going to be. So if you have Z as, say, like this A plus IB format, if Z is taking this format A plus JB, you are getting the value of Z like this, which means so the circuit is going to have a real part is going to be resistance. Since the imaginary term is plus, this should definitely be inductor. So it will have R and L. If the impedance is going to be negative, you can easily say the circuit is going to have a capacitor inside that. And if you have a real term, you will have a resistance also. So it is going to be a resistor capacitor circuit. If you have a plus sign, you are going to say it is going to be a resistor inductor circuit, RL circuit. It is going to be an RL circuit. Is it okay?
Sir, doubt.
Anybody is having doubts?
Sir, excuse sir.
Yeah.
Sir, the Z is equal to tan inverse B by A formula you written over, sir.
Yes, the angle. Yeah.
That is tan inverse of determinant of B by determinant of A, sir.
No, not determinant. Not determinant. Tan inverse of imaginary term by real term.
In maths, we use determinant of B by determinant of A, sir.
No determinant. Don't take the determinant. Just imaginary part is 62.83 and real part is 10. So tan inverse of 62.83 by 10. That's all. Don't take determinant. It's just the division of two numbers along with the sign. Here you see the imaginary part is negative here. So it is tan inverse of minus 159.154 by 10. The minus sign along with sign you should take.
Okay, sir.
Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Anybody is having doubts?
Sir, why we are taking minus, sir?
Here you have imaginary term is minus, right? So therefore you take minus. Here the imaginary term is plus. So I put plus here. So you have to take a term divided by the entire sign real term. Real term is positive, so no issues. In the first case, imaginary term is also positive. I have plus sign here. So it is tan inverse of 62.83 by 10. In the second case, you see the real imaginary term is negative. So tan inverse of minus 159.154 divided by 10. Okay. So next topic is Kirchhoff's voltage law. So it is also called as KVL. Kirchhoff's voltage law, it is called as KVL. So I'll say the statement of KVL. The statement is given here. The algebraic sum of voltage drop or rise around the loop or mesh in a specified direction is 0. Okay. The Kirchhoff voltage law says if you add all the voltage inside a circuit with a specific direction, it is going to be 0. Okay, that is the real interpretation of Kirchhoff's voltage law. If the voltage drop is taken as negative, the voltage rise is taken as positive, the voltage rise is taken as negative. Or you can take the reverse also. If the voltage drop is taken as negative, the voltage rise is taken as positive. Okay, so this is the statement of KVL. And this KVL, when you want to learn KVL, you have to understand some basic things. What is a node? So in a circuit, what is a node means? It is the point where it is a junction where two or more points meet. So that one is going to be called as a node. Okay. So you take this sample circuit, you have a node here, 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 and you have a node here. So totally how many nodes we have? We have 5 nodes in this problem, in this circuit. Is it clear how to identify nodes? You see here, more than 2 branches are meeting. So this is a node. You see here, more than 2 branches are meeting. And always, when you have any voltage source or current source, you should take that alone between 2 nodes. That thing you should remember. You should not take this entire thing as single node. All the voltage source will be between two nodes. So this voltage source also see it is between two nodes. This voltage source between the two nodes. And remaining all the components will be every when you split this node, all the components should be connected. That is what you have to see. So here in this circuit, we have 5 nodes. By default, always ground will be a node. Ground is a node which has zero voltage. By default, this lowermost portion of the circuit will be acting as ground. And if the ground is given or not in your question, you will assume that to act like a ground. Ground is also a node. So in this circuit, we have number of nodes to be 5. Is that clear? Any doubt you have? Now note how to fix nodes in a circuit. Node is the junction where 2 or more points are going to meet. Okay. So next one is path. Path is the way how we are going to travel from one node to another. So if I'm going to travel from here to here, I can go this way. This is the path. Path will not have a direction. So I can go from this node to node this way. The path is the direction. Path is the way in which I can travel between nodes. Traversal from one node to another. Next one, branch. Branch is the path joining two nodes. So if you have two nodes, this is going to be a branch. Ideally, if you look at path and branch, they are almost similar. They don't have any difference. Path is how far you can travel. If I want to travel from here to here, this entire thing becomes a path. But branch is always between two nodes. Branch is between two nodes only. Okay. Then loop. Loop is the closed path where you start at one node and you end at the same node. So that is a loop. Loop means assume I'm starting from here, I'm ending at the same point. So this is a loop. I am starting at this node, I'm ending at the same node. This is a loop. I am starting from this node, I'm ending at the same node. This is a loop. Okay, so loop means I should start and end at the same point. Mesh means mesh should not have any loop within that. So mesh should not have individually, it should not have any other loop within itself. Okay, that is going to be called as a mesh. And the number of independent meshes is given by this formula. M is equal to P minus N plus 1. So what is P? P is going to be the branches. N is going to be the node. From the circuit, you can find B and N. If you know B and N, you can find M. So in this circuit, the number of nodes is 5. As we have fixed the number of branches, how many branches are there between the nodes? This is one branch. This is one branch. This is one branch. This is one branch. This is one branch, and this is one branch. So you have totally 7 branches. So if you substitute in the formula, you get M is equal to 7 minus 5 plus 1, or you get 3 meshes. Are we getting 3 meshes here? We have drawn the direction C, so totally we have 3 meshes. See, these things and all just for your understanding, but actually circuitly we will not be finding out the node path, we will not be finding out the number of nodes and all. Just for your understanding how to find node, path, branch, loop, and mesh. Any doubts you have? We are going to stop with here. Any doubts in KVL?
Sir, in the branch, how are you finding how many branches are there, sir? I couldn't understand that.
Branches between node, you see between this node and this node, you have one branch here. Second branch, third, fourth branch, fifth branch, sixth branch, seventh branch.
Sir, another doubt, sir.
Yes.
So in the if you find when we find the number of nodes, we have to see whether like nodes are actually like a point where three wires or 3 circuits join. No, sir.
2 or more. Yes, 2 or more. Yeah.
Or 2 or more.
Yes.
No, I couldn't understand because in the center's wire, the above the 3 ohm you have marked node.
Yes,
no, sir.
why
How is that?
this is an voltage source, right?
Okay, sir.
Always when you have voltage source or current source, that both ends of the source should be nodes. That is a rule.
Sir, but below that also there is a node, no? So we could include that as a.
No. That entire source should be treated as a single component only. That is the rule.
Oh, okay, sir.
See this voltage source, it is between these two nodes. If you have a resistor here, then we'll be putting one more node here. You're able to understand.
Okay, okay. So we can't share nodes between two
Yes,
two
yes,
batteries or AC circuits.
yes.
Okay, sir. Understood.
Correct, correct. I think our time is up. So I'll please